What happens when a virgin is forced to marry a ruthless alpha in place of her sister, only to discover she's his fated mate? Get ready for scandal, secrets, passion, and the kind of love that burns through your soul. Hi, loves. Welcome back to the Snap of Two Hearts, your home for breathtaking fantasy romance stories. If you're into possessive alphas, secret virgin brides, and sizzling chemistry, you've just found your new obsession. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more epic love stories every week. Let us know in the comments if you want us to continue this story and how you imagine the next chapter. The storm outside had nothing on the chaos inside Elara's heart. She stood there in her sister's wedding dress, lace sleeves damp from the rain, her lips trembling as the heavy oak doors creaked open. Inside the grand hall, the elite of the BloodFang Pack turned to look, and at the end of the aisle stood Alpha Kael Blackthorn, tall, broad-shouldered, impossibly dangerous. This wasn't her place. This wasn't her wedding. It was supposed to be her older sister, Elara. But Elara had vanished the night before, leaving nothing but a note and a command. Take my place, or he'll destroy us all. Kyle's gaze locked onto her like a predator spotting weakness. You. His voice was gravel and rage. You're the substitute. His jaw clenched so hard, a vein pulsed at his temple. His beta tried to intervene, but Kael raised a hand, and everyone went silent. Are you untouched? He asked, stepping down the stairs with lethal grace. Elara couldn't lie, not when his scent already overwhelmed her senses. She nodded, lowering her eyes. Yes, Alpha. The crowd gasped. Virgin brides were considered sacred in their customs. Sacred and owned. He moved closer, his heat brushing against her skin. Then you're mine now, he said. Not a question. A declaration. She barely had time to breathe before his lips captured hers in front of the entire pack. A rough, punishing kiss that made her knees weaken and her pulse thunder. That single kiss sealed the ancient bond. The mating ritual had begun. Kyle swept her into his arms and carried her straight to the Luna's chamber, through corridors lit with torches and eyes watching them with envy, pity, or curiosity. He slammed the door shut with his boot and dropped her gently on silken sheets. You have no idea what you've stepped into, little virgin, he whispered against her ear, voice dark with hunger. But you will. She watched as he shed his ceremonial robe, revealing a chest carved from muscle and war. Scars painted his skin like trophies. And yet, there was something primal in the way he looked at her, like a man who hadn't been touched in years, but now had something precious and forbidden within reach. He crawled over her slowly, hands braced on either side of her head. His scent wrapped around her. Cedar, smoke, danger. Elara whimpered as he traced a finger down her neck, over her collarbone, and into the valley between her breasts. You smell like sin, he growled, and I've been starving. Kael's mouth descended to hers again, but this time, it wasn't anger. It was raw hunger. His kiss deepened, coaxing a moan from her throat she didn't even know she could make. His hands explored, gripping her hips, sliding beneath the lace, tearing through the delicate threads of her wedding dress until she was bare and breathless beneath him. He growled low in approval, then pinned her wrists above her head with one hand while the other slid between her thighs. Elara gasped, her first true touch, from a man who wielded his dominance like a blade. This is mine now, Kyle muttered, voice hoarse with restraint. Every part of you. And when he finally entered her, slow, deep, possessive, her body arched off the bed with a cry that was part pain, part pleasure, and all-consuming fire. He didn't stop. He moved inside her with calculated intensity, claiming her, filling her, making her forget who she had been before this night, before him. Their bond flared to life, furious, blinding, and she felt it, the truth. This wasn't just a substitution. She was his fated mate. Elara awoke sore, branded, and wrapped in warm, silken sheets that still carried his scent. Her body tingled from the memories of Kael's touch, the way his hands had memorized her curves, the hunger in his kiss, the ruthless gentleness in his first thrust. But now she was alone in the Alpha's chamber, and the fire in the hearth was dying. A knock sounded, and she covered her bare chest instinctively. But when the door creaked open, it wasn't a maid. It was Kael. He strode in like he owned the air, his shirt open, eyes sharper than ever. "You're still here," he muttered. She blinked. "Did you expect me to run?" "I expected you to regret everything," he said, crossing the room in 2 strides and sitting beside her. "But I can smell it on you. You want more." His hand slipped beneath the sheets, finding her knee, sliding up her thigh. Elara's breath hitched. Kael leaned down, whispering against her lips. "Let me show you what happens when a virgin bride becomes an Alpha's addiction." Before she could speak, he was kissing her again, rough, hungry, taking everything. The sheets tangled around them as he pulled her onto his lap, settling her on his hardened length. He grunted, his head falling back when her body instinctively moved with his. This wasn't soft. This was wild. He gripped her hips and guided her down, taking him inch by inch, moaning as he filled her again. She gasped, overwhelmed by the sensation, but unable to stop. "Ride me," he growled, eyes blazing gold. "Show me you're not just a substitute." The fireplace flared as their bodies moved in sync, the air thick with the scent of arousal and power. Elara clawed at his back, moaning his name, lost in pleasure she never knew existed. Every thrust sent heat spiraling through her core. "Kael, I can't," she gasped. "Yes, you can," he rasped, flipping her over and pinning her down. "You were made for this. For me." He drove into her again, deeper, rougher, his mouth trailing down her neck, over her breasts, biting her softly until she cried out. The bond pulsed between them, electric and unbreakable. Her nails dug into his shoulders, dragging him closer. They lost themselves in each other for hours, grinding, gasping, groaning. The Alpha didn't stop until she was boneless and breathless beneath him, her thighs trembling, her heart completely his. Later, as he cradled her in the aftermath, his lips brushing her temple, Kael finally spoke what neither of them dared say before. "You're not her," he murmured. "You're better." Elara blinked up at him. "Then why do you still look at me like I'm just a substitute?" His jaw clenched. "Because I didn't choose you. The moon did." Before she could answer, a loud bang echoed outside the chamber. Kael's body went rigid. He shot to his feet, naked, eyes glowing with rage. "Stay here." But Elara, too curious and too stubborn, followed, throwing on a robe and peeking from the corridor as Kael confronted a familiar face from his past. Amara, alive, smirking, wearing a red dress too tight and lips too cruel. "Miss me, Kael?" Amara purred. Elara's blood ran cold. Kael didn't respond. He just growled, low and dangerous. "You left me," he said. "You broke the bond." "I changed my mind," Amara said sweetly. "And now that I see how well you've trained my little sister, I want back what's mine." Inside the shadows, Elara's heart shattered. She wasn't prepared for this, but she would be. She wouldn't give Kael up, not after everything, not after how he made her feel, and not after what they had done in that bed. That night, Kael didn't return to the room. Elara sat by the frosted window, arms wrapped around her knees, watching the moonlight dance across the snow-covered forest. Her chest ached with confusion. Her body remembered him, craved him, but her heart was starting to want more. More than being a substitute, more than stolen nights and fiery touches. She wanted to be chosen. When the door finally creaked open, she didn't turn. Kael entered quietly, the tension in his shoulders like a storm ready to burst. But instead of speaking, he knelt behind her and wrapped his arms gently around her waist. "I should have come back sooner," he whispered into her hair. She leaned back, her voice breaking. "Why didn't you?" He held her tighter, his breath warm on her neck. "I saw her, and for a moment, it was like no time had passed," he admitted. "But then I looked into her eyes and realized, she's not you." Elara turned slowly, eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I'm not trying to be her, Kael." "I know," he whispered, pressing his forehead to hers, "and that's why it scares the hell out of me." Their lips brushed, slow, searching. This kiss wasn't lust. It was full of hesitation and yearning. He cupped her cheek like she was breakable, and when he kissed her again, it was the softest she'd ever felt from him. They undressed each other with reverence, hands moving like prayers. He laid her down, not with hunger, but with awe, like she was something sacred. Underneath the moonlight spilling through the window, Kael made love to her, slow, deep, and achingly tender. Every stroke was a promise, every breath a confession. Elara arched against him, fingers woven in his hair, her moans soft and sweet. "Say my name," he begged against her collarbone. "Kael," she breathed, and he groaned as though it was the only word he ever wanted to hear. Their bodies moved in sync, his mouth never leaving her skin. He kissed away every insecurity, every unspoken fear, until all she could feel was warmth, belonging, and the beautiful burn of something real. When he climaxed, he clung to her like he never wanted to let go, his face buried in her neck, his voice rough and low. "I don't want to lose you," he said. She stroked his back, letting the weight of that confession settle. "You won't," she whispered. "But I won't fight for a place in your heart if it's already taken." Kael pulled back to look at her, eyes fierce. "You already have it." For the first time since their wedding, Elara felt like she wasn't a shadow of someone else. She was becoming his mate, not just in body, but in soul. The days that followed were blissful. They bathed together in the early mornings, his arms around her in the steaming water, his lips tracing gentle kisses down her shoulder. They dined side by side, laughed in the training yard, and he even let her ride with him through the snowy woods. But the peaceful days didn't last. One morning, Elara felt nauseous, then again the next. Her appetite faded, her body more sensitive, her senses sharper. Kael noticed. He fussed over her, refused to leave her side. Then the palace healer delivered the news with a gentle smile. "She's with child, Alpha." Elara froze. Kael stared at the healer, then at Elara, shock and wonder washing over his face. He reached for her trembling hands. "You're carrying my heir." Elara's lips parted. "I didn't know." But Kael silenced her with a kiss, soft and lingering. "I don't care how it happened," he whispered. "I just know. This changes everything." As she stared into his glowing eyes, Elara felt something bloom inside her, deeper than desire, greater than need. Love. She was falling in love with the Alpha who once took her by force, and now held her like she was the only thing that mattered in the world. The pregnancy changed everything. Kael had become more protective, more attentive, his touch more loving, his voice softer. But with the joy came pressure. Rumors swirled through the pack, whispers of unworthiness, of Elara being just the substitute. And behind those whispers was Amara. Kael tried to shield Elara from it, but she wasn't blind. The way the women avoided her gaze, the way the council elders watched her belly with disapproval. One evening, she found Kael pacing in his study, fists clenched. "They want a blood test," he growled. They want to confirm the child is mine, as if I don't know my own scent. Her heart cracked a little. Let them test me. I have nothing to hide. Kael stalked toward her, lifting her gently onto his desk. You shouldn't have to prove anything, he whispered, fingers brushing her cheek. You're mine, Elara. Always. Then his mouth was on hers, demanding, claiming. He spread her legs, kissed her belly reverently, then moved lower. She gasped as he worshipped her with his tongue, slow and possessive. You'll never be just a substitute, he murmured against her thighs. You're the mother of my child, and the mate of my soul. But the night was shattered by fire. Elara woke to smoke, choking the hallway. Kael burst into the room, shirtless, covered in soot. He wrapped her in his cloak and carried her out as flames licked the walls. It was arson, the beta confirmed the next morning. The east wing was targeted. Kael's jaw tightened. It's Amara. But they had no proof. Elara sat quietly, her hand resting on her belly. She wants me gone. She won't touch you again, Kael vowed. To reassure her, he planned a moonlight bonding ceremony, not to replace their rushed wedding, but to claim her before the pack. To show them Elara wasn't a substitute. She was the true Luna. The night before the ceremony, Kael took her beneath the stars. On the frozen lake, they made love wrapped in furs, his hands never leaving her skin. After tomorrow, no one will question who you are, he whispered as she trembled beneath him. The ceremony was intimate. Elara wore white, simple, elegant, glowing. The moon crowned her like a goddess. Kael took her hands before the pack and said, She was never a stand-in. She is my fated one. They kissed. The pack howled, and for the first time Elara felt accepted, but the joy was short-lived. That night Amara returned. She stood at the border of the packlands, draped in black, eyes wild with fury. You'll regret this, she hissed. That child should have been mine. Kael stepped forward. You left. You chose power over love. Amara's smile twisted. And I'll take back both. Kael held Elara closer. Touch her, and I'll kill you. Later that night, Kael tried to calm her by holding her in a warm bath. He kissed the water droplets off her shoulders, cradled her from behind, his hands stroking slow circles on her belly. I will protect you, he whispered. I believe you, she said, but doubt crept in. A letter arrived. No signature, just 5 words. You will lose him soon. Kael burned it, but Elara couldn't shake the fear. She tried to distract herself with love, surprising Kael in the training ring. She wore a sheer lace slip under his cloak, and when he returned, she dropped it with a smile. He growled low, scooped her up, and carried her to their room. I've been fighting battles all day, he said, tossing her onto the bed. But this is the war I want to lose. He claimed her slowly, passionately, whispering things like, You're my fire, my peace, my madness. And when she wrapped her legs around him and pulled him deeper, it wasn't about lust anymore. It was about grounding themselves in each other when the world outside was unraveling. Then came the attack. Amara didn't come alone this time. She returned with a rogue pack. In the chaos, Elara was taken. Not far, but enough to send Kael into madness. When he found her, she was unharmed, but shaken. You're safe, he repeated over and over, rocking her in his arms. I've got you. I didn't fight back, she whispered, ashamed. I froze. He lifted her chin. You are carrying our child. You protected them. You did everything right. Back in their chamber, he undressed her slowly, tenderly. He kissed every bruise the ropes had left, every mark of fear. Then he laid her down, kissed her belly, and whispered stories to their unborn child, of strength, of destiny, of a love that was forged through fire. That night their bodies moved with slow devotion, no urgency, just love. Soft sighs, tangled hands, kisses that tasted of tears and hope. And when he spilled inside her, he pressed his forehead to hers and said, "Let them come. I will burn the world for you." Elara's nightmares grew worse. She dreamt of blood moons and fire, of Kael screaming her name, unreachable. And always, Amara's eyes watching her from the shadows. But it wasn't just fear. The moonlight whispered to her now. Her skin tingled under its glow. When she touched the forest floor barefoot, the earth pulsed back. Kael noticed too. One night, during a walk beneath the silver moon, he stopped her. "Elara," he said softly, brushing his hand along her cheek. "You're glowing." She laughed nervously, but he didn't smile. He leaned in, his lips brushing her collarbone. "Your scent is changing. There's something ancient stirring in you." Later that night, he showed her just how much he worshipped the change. He kissed her under the open stars, laid her bare against the grass, and moved inside her as the wind rustled around them, wild, primal, full of need. She cried out his name, hips bucking, until the moon itself seemed to shiver. Something had awakened. The next morning the council demanded answers. They had seen the moonlight bend around her, felt the tremor in the ley lines. "She is more than human," one elder said gravely. Kael stood firm. "She is mine. Whatever she becomes with me." But Elara was shaken. In private, she wept. "I don't know what's happening to me." Kael knelt before her, resting his hands on her swelling belly. "You are powerful. You were always powerful. Now the world is just catching up." That night, he undressed her slowly, worshipfully. Every kiss was a vow. Every touch was a tether pulling her back to him. He laid her down on silk sheets, spread her thighs with reverence, and buried his mouth between them like a man starving. She arched, whimpered, gasped, his name on her lips, a mantra. When he entered her, it wasn't just lust. It was grounding. She felt real again, anchored, and when he came undone inside her, moaning her name, she knew, whatever she was becoming, she was still his. But the betrayal came from within. Kael's beta, Ruvan, had been secretly aligned with Amara. For months he'd been feeding her intel, until now. Kael found out the truth too late. The beta tried to flee, but Elara stopped him. She had no weapon, just rage, pure burning protective rage. Her hands lit up with white-blue flame. The earth cracked beneath her. The air shimmered. She screamed, and the forest answered. Ruvan collapsed, stunned by power no one had seen in a Luna before. Kael pulled her back, holding her shaking body. "You're not a monster," he whispered, rocking her gently. That night Kael didn't make love to her. He held her, naked, skin to skin, her head on his chest. "You scared me," she whispered. "You astounded me," he replied. "And I've never loved you more." Kael knew Elara needed more than love now. She needed control. He brought in a witch elder, Lysandra, to help her unlock her powers. "You are moonblood," Lysandra whispered, tracing the mark on Elara's back. "Born of starlight, chosen by the moon goddess herself." Elara trained daily, sweating, struggling, discovering. She bent wind, shaped water, healed Kael's wound with a single kiss to his skin. But the passion between them didn't die. It burned brighter, deeper. One afternoon, she walked into the training yard, soaked in sweat and magic. Kael watched her like prey. "You look like a goddess," he murmured. She grinned. "Then worship me." He did. Right there, against the wall, he stripped her down, kissed every inch of her glowing skin, and thrust into her until she screamed loud enough to shake the stone. "Do you feel it?" he growled. "You're mine." "Always," she gasped, clinging to him. But Amara wasn't done. She infiltrated the southern border, offering a truce with blood magic, a ritual to ensure Elara's child would be born safely. No attacks, no war, but it came at a price: Kael's life. "She still wants you," Elara said, her voice trembling with fury, "even if it means sacrificing you." Kael didn't hesitate. "Then she'll die." Elara stood at the cliffside that night, wind swirling around her, belly full of life, heart full of war. Kael came to her. "Whatever happens, this child will be born into love." She turned, kissed him softly. "Then love me, like it's the last night on earth." He obeyed. On the floor before the fireplace, he took her slow, then faster, then wild. Their bodies tangled in silk and sweat and sacred rhythm. She rode him, her hair flying loose, crying his name into the dark. When they collapsed, he kissed her belly again and whispered, "She won't win. Not while I have you." The ritual was forbidden for a reason. To protect the unborn heir, Elara had to summon the moon goddess under a blood moon, using a piece of Kael's soul. "Give me your blood," she whispered that night, in the hidden grove. Kael sliced his palm and held it out, no hesitation. Their blood mingled, fell upon ancient runes. Suddenly, time stopped. The moon turned crimson. Wind howled. Elara's back arched as magic seared through her, her body glowing with power. Her baby kicked hard, twice, like it knew. Kael caught her before she collapsed. She clung to him, trembling. "I saw her. The goddess. She said our child is destiny, but one of us must die to bring balance." Kael stilled. "No." He kissed her hard, desperate, then lifted her and carried her back to their quarters, needing to remind her what they were fighting for. That night, he took her slow and deep, eyes locked with hers, whispering, "Live. We both live. Do you hear me?" Her moans were answers. Her cries, "Kael, please," were promises of survival. Days passed, and Elara grew stronger, both magically and emotionally. But so did the tension. Kael became distant. He trained harder, slept less, touched her like it might be the last time. He was preparing to sacrifice himself. She found him alone, practicing with silver blades. "You promised," she snapped, fury in her voice. "You promised we both live." "I lied," he said flatly. "If it's me or you, if it's me or our child, I choose you." She slapped him, then kissed him ferociously. They fell into bed like war and love incarnate. She pinned him down, riding him in a storm of pain and passion, claiming his body like she could anchor him to life. Tears mixed with sweat. "No more sacrifices," she whispered after, her body curled against his. "We find another way. We fight together." He held her like she was his universe, and for a moment she believed they'd win. But betrayal struck again, this time from someone unexpected, Lysandra, the elder witch. She wasn't helping Elara. She was siphoning her power, feeding it to Amara, strengthening her for the final battle. "She fears you," Lysandra said, caught red-handed. "She knows you'll give birth to the child, destined to end her reign." Elara's fury erupted in flame. The earth trembled as she cast Lysandra out with a scream of raw power that split trees and shattered stones. But the damage was done. Amara was ready. Her army surged toward the pack. The final war had begun. That night Kael came to Elara's bed, naked and solemn. "Will you still have me?" he asked. She pulled him down and kissed him breathless. And then, they made war with their bodies, on the floor, against the wall, bent over the windowsill. No words, just hands, mouths, growls and moans. Their love was violent, beautiful, endless. When they collapsed together, sore and tangled, she said, "If we die tomorrow, I want you to know. I would choose this, over and over. War." Smoke choked the forest. Screams echoed. Elara fought like a goddess unleashed, channeling fire, water, wind. She was unstoppable. But so was Amara. They met in the middle of the battlefield, their powers clashing in thunderous light. Elara screamed as Amara struck her belly with a death curse, only for it to backfire violently. The child inside her, a girl, flared with divine energy, shielding herself from harm. Amara recoiled, weakened. Kael took the chance. He struck the killing blow, but not before Amara sliced his chest open. He fell. Elara screamed his name, collapsing beside him. "No, no, no." "Kael," she kissed him, begged him, wept against his lips. And then, her power surged. She poured her soul into his heart, into the wound. And the moon goddess answered. Kael gasped back to life, eyes wide, breathing hard, blood evaporating under glowing light. Elara wept, holding his face. "You promised, you liar." He smiled weakly. "I came back. For you. Always for you." Their army cheered. Amara was dead. Peace returned. But Elara collapsed moments later. Her labor had begun. Inside the sacred temple, she screamed through the night. Kael held her hand, never letting go. And just before dawn, their daughter was born. Hair dark as midnight, eyes glowing silver. The moon goddess whispered to Elara, "She is the first of her kind, a Luna queen, the beginning of a new age." Elara looked up at Kael, her heart breaking and healing all at once. "She looks like you," he said softly. "No," Elara whispered. "She looks like us." They kissed, gentle, exhausted, fiercely in love, and under the dawn sky their forever began. The days after war brought peace and pain. Kael recovered slowly. His body bore scars, visible and not, but his eyes sparkled every time he looked at Elara. She too bore a wound, her heart filled with fear that the peace was temporary. Their daughter Lyra grew fast, too fast. "She's special," Elara whispered to Kael. "She learns before she's taught. She sees things." Kael brushed a kiss on Elara's temple. So does her mother. Still, Elara had nightmares. In one dream, a dark alpha came for Lyra, claiming she belonged to the Shadow Pack. That night, Kael found Elara pacing, panicked. He wrapped her in his arms. "We protect her. Together." Their lips met, slow, hungry, like two stars colliding. Elara sank into him, moaning as he picked her up, carried her to their bed, and made love to her with the quiet reverence of a man who had once died for her. Every kiss whispered, "You're safe. You're mine. Always." The mating ceremony came quickly. Though mated in spirit, they hadn't yet marked each other in front of the pack. The forest bloomed under moonlight as Elara walked toward him, wearing a dress made of silver threads and white lace. Kael stood shirtless, chest scarred, eyes gleaming. She smiled through tears. "You ready to be officially mine?" he teased. "I already am." But the ritual still awaited. The bite, the bond, the eternal promise. Kael bit her first, right at the base of her neck. Elara cried out, half pleasure, half pain. Then she returned the mark, sinking her fangs into his skin as their wolves howled in spiritual unity. The sky shimmered with stardust. Later, in their private chamber, Kael whispered, "Now you're really mine, Queen." And then he worshipped her body, slowly, thoroughly. Tongue, lips, fingers, everywhere. She cried out his name again and again, lost in waves of pleasure that only her mate could give. But peace was short-lived. A letter arrived, sealed in black wax. The Alpha of the Shadow Dwellers demanded Lyra be turned over. She is promised, it read, to our blood prince. Her magic belongs to us. Elara screamed, tearing the letter apart. No one touches my daughter. Kael summoned his warriors. That night, as they planned, Elara stood in the shadows, whispering a forgotten spell. If they come for her, I'll be ready. Kael found her chanting. You're hiding something. I'm protecting something, she snapped. He grabbed her wrist. You promised. No more secrets. I broke that promise to keep our child alive, she whispered. Then their anger melted into something darker, needier. They crashed into each other, furious and desperate. Clothes ripped, teeth clashed. He slammed her against the table. I hate you for keeping things from me, he growled. Then punish me, she begged. And he did, with thrusts that left her breathless and bruised with love. The shadow pack came at dawn, a horde of wolves, a black chariot, and the blood prince, Lyra's intended. But Lyra was gone. Elara had cloaked her in ancient magic and sent her far away. You'll never find her, Elara told them, standing on the battlefield, her mate beside her. The blood prince smirked. Then I'll take you instead. He struck. A brutal war ignited, spells clashing with fangs, fire devouring ice, Kael bleeding as he fought through the horde to reach Elara. She screamed as dark magic wrapped around her throat. But then, Lyra returned. She walked straight into the fire, her eyes glowing silver. I choose my family, she said, and with one word, one ancient command, she ended the war. The earth swallowed the enemy. Silence reigned. Lyra collapsed. Elara caught her. Kael fell to his knees, and for the first time, they wept together. A year passed. Lyra lived free, her magic sealed until she came of age. Kael ruled beside Elara, Alpha and Luna Queen, a legend whispered across realms. But tonight, there was no war, no magic, just them. Kael pulled Elara into their bed, sliding her nightdress off, fingers trailing fire down her spine. Have I told you lately, he murmured, lips against her breast, how much I love being yours? She moaned softly. Show me. And he did. All night long, his touch, worship, his kiss, command. Their bodies moved like poetry, their moans the language of soulmates. When dawn kissed their window, Elara rested her head on Kael's chest, smiling. I never imagined life like this. Kael kissed her hair. That's because you never imagined someone would love you this much. She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. You didn't just love me. You saved me. No, he whispered. You saved us all. The aftermath was quiet. Too quiet. Kael stood on the balcony overlooking the forest. The land had healed faster than their hearts. Inside, Elara played the piano, soft, sad notes drifting through the palace. He watched her. So beautiful. So distant. He walked in slowly, his voice low. Talk to me. She didn't stop playing. I don't know how to feel normal again. You don't have to be normal, he said, coming behind her. Just be mine. She turned slowly. Her eyes glistened. I'm scared of losing this. Of losing you. You never will. His hands found her hips. His lips found her neck. Not again. He lifted her onto the piano bench, gently spread her legs, and kissed her thigh. Then he worshipped her like a melody, softly, deeply, over and over, until the only music left was her breathless moans. They took a retreat, just them. No pack, no crown, no war. A hidden cabin by a lake, surrounded by wild flowers and quiet winds. Elara loved it instantly. This is where we should have started, she whispered. They swam naked in the cold lake. Her laughter echoed as Kael pulled her under and then dragged her against him. Need to warm you up, he teased. She wrapped her legs around him in the water. Then do it. He kissed her there, water streaming down their skin, her body tightening as he filled her under the rising moon. They made love until the stars burned out. Later, under fur blankets, Elara whispered, "Let's stay forever." Kael kissed her forehead. "We'll stay until your heart remembers what it's like to breathe easy again." They returned to the palace, changed. Elara laughed more. Kael smiled easier. But a surprise awaited them. Lyra had started her shift. Early. "I felt it in my bones," she told them. "I'm not just a wolf. I'm something else." A priestess from the eastern mountains was summoned. "She is the one foretold," the priestess said. Elara's heart froze. "What does that mean?" "She must choose, to walk the mortal path, or become divine." Elara grabbed Kael's hand. "I won't lose her," she whispered. "You won't," he said, "but we may have to let her go." That night Elara cried in his arms. Kael made love to her with such tenderness, such soul, that she came undone like silk unraveling under fire. His lips murmured devotion across her skin. His hands memorized her curves again and again. It wasn't sex. It was a promise. Lyra chose neither. "I will stay," she said. "But I'll train. Prepare. I won't let fate choose for me." Elara hugged her tightly. "You are your father's daughter." Kael smirked. "And your mother's fire." A festival was held in Lyra's honor. The whole kingdom celebrated. That night, Kael led Elara away, to the throne room. Only this time, it was just for them. He sat her on the royal seat and dropped to his knees. "My queen," he whispered. Elara gasped as his mouth moved between her thighs, his fingers teasing her until she cried out, shaking. He took her there, on the throne, on the floor, against the stained glass windows. Each moan echoed through the empty hall like a sacred chant. Their love became legend. Elara wrote again, her books filled with magic and love and truth. Kael led peacefully. The kingdom flourished, and Lyra became the protector of their legacy. On the night of their 10th mating anniversary, Kael brought Elara back to the meadow where it all began. He laid her down on wildflowers and made love to her under the stars, slow, unhurried, filled with memories and promises. "You gave me a life," she whispered. "You gave me a reason to live," he replied. Their bodies danced like old flames reunited. When it was over, he wrapped her in his arms. They watched the stars. "Forever," she said. "Forever," he echoed. And they fell asleep under the sky, Alpha and Luna, legend and love, past and future entwined. Elara hadn't told Kael. Not yet. The visions were back, only this time. They weren't of war. They were of a child, a boy with Kael's eyes and her magic, a boy who would either save their kingdom or destroy it. She hid the truth even as Kael worshipped her body night after night, his hunger for her undimmed. In the royal bath one night, Kael pulled her naked into the water. "You've been distant. I've just needed to feel." "You'll feel everything," he growled. He kissed down her spine, then slipped between her thighs. His tongue drew shivers from her until she moaned against marble walls, the echoes bouncing like fever. He took her then, slow and deep, his growl in her ear. "You're mine." Every heartbeat, every breath, and for a moment she forgot the storm inside her. She confessed it. That night in bed, after he kissed her senseless and laid his head on her stomach. "I think I'm pregnant," she whispered. Kael froze. Then his chest rose. He sat up and stared at her. "You think?" "I've seen it, in my dreams. Our son." He cupped her face, his lips trembling. "You're sure it's ours?" Elara nodded. "Yes, but he's powerful. Maybe too powerful." Kael didn't hesitate. "Then we'll raise him together. Teach him love before power." She cried into his chest. And then they made love like it was their first time all over again, hands desperate, mouths exploring. He was gentler this time, deeper, more reverent, as if he was worshipping the future growing inside her. Their happiness was short-lived. An assassin was caught near Lyra's wing, sent by a shadow kingdom that believed Elara's child would bring an apocalypse. Elara wanted to run. Kael refused. "This is our home. Our child will not be born in fear." He marked her again that night, as if to prove it. Bit her shoulder while she rode him, her body already glowing from the life inside her. He kissed her stomach, then slid his tongue lower, worshipping her until she screamed his name into velvet pillows. "You're not just my queen," he said. "You're the goddess who saved me." And Elara, moaning, shaking, believed it. Lyra began training in secret with the Eastern priestess. "She's coming into her own," the priestess said. "But the child will test her." Elara grew more radiant. Her belly swelled with life, but she dreamed again, of fire, of betrayal, of someone close, turning. She told Kael, his jaw clenched. "Let them come. I'll burn the world for you." "You can't protect me from everything," she said. "Yes, I can. Even from fate." And that night, he tied her hands in silk, worshipped every inch of her trembling body. He took her from behind while whispering, "You're mine. Nothing will touch you." His possessive thrusts left her breathless, but her mind was clouded with fear. The birth was near. Kael built a special sanctuary inside the palace, laced with spells, runes, and steel. The kingdom awaited their child, but in the shadows, a figure watched. Lyra stood before the mirror. The prophecy was clearer now. "I may have to choose between him and her." Elara rested in the moon garden, feeling the baby kick. Kael joined her, brushing petals from her hair. "I never thought I'd have this," he said. She turned to him, tears in her eyes. "I never thought I'd love this hard." He kissed her slowly, thoroughly, then carried her inside. They made love by moonlight, slow, sensual, pregnant belly between them, his hands cupping her hips. He whispered, "When he's born, we'll face everything. Together." And she prayed. The love they shared would be enough.